And there I was again on network television the following summer, 13 or 14 shows. And I became known as a reliable primetime variety show comedian.
And the act that you were doing on these shows, or the writing that you were doing, was it dissimilar to the previous incarnation? Was this starting to shift?
It wasn't shifting much, except that I was casting about for new subjects. There are some things from that second year that I really didn't like. Things I did as the monologues that I didn't like. I did a couple of monologues on the Kraft Summer Music Hall that they cut. Just didn't work. I mean, I was trying too hard. I was digging too deep. There wasn't a lot of things there. I was an undeveloped writer. I was really a club comedian with a limited, here I was 24, 25, whatever. Oh, yeah, right. No, by now I'm in my late 20s. So I didn't have the depth of experience in my matrix to call on. I wasn't writing from that spot. I was writing superficially from the front of my head. And it was thin. So I began to do these, but I hated doing these variety shows. I started to get I got other ones. I got the Perry Como special in Hawaii. I got Jimmy Rogers. I did Roger Miller's variety show. I did Carol Burnett. I did probably 5 or 10 more. Sullivan, I held out. They wanted me on Sullivan, and I held out. I told my manager, I said, no. I said, I've heard that they chew young comedians up there. The reputation of the Sullivan Show was that after dress rehearsal, Sunday afternoon, they would come to you and say, okay, you need to cut 1.5 minutes. And that was fine. But then, okay, so you cut the 1.5 minutes. Now you do the live show. Just before you go on, they come and they say, the roller skating chimpanzees went long, so we need you to cut another minute. And this is a live show. You're about to go on in another 5 or 10 minutes, and they're telling you to cut 1 minute. Well, I did hunks. I did things that were pieces. I couldn't take 1.5 minutes out, even after dress rehearsal. I couldn't take 1 minute out on show. I either junked the whole piece, or I went back and I came back a week later with a shorter version of it. But I was afraid of that. So I told them, I don't want to go. I waited about 1 year or 2 years. Finally, I went on. It's a very frightening experience. I will never forget the Sunday walk. I did 11 of them. Yeah. They're all live. Some people of a certain age don't know anything about that. They've heard about it, but there's no turning back. You're scheduled. You'll be on there. And I would walk from the Americana Hotel. It's been renamed now. It's over at 52nd or 3rd on 7th Avenue. And I would walk with my garment bag from there over the short walk over to what is now the David Letterman Theater stage door, the Ed Sullivan Show. And my stomach was just a knot. I was just so afraid that I knew the audience they were dead. They were just dead people. Yes, they laughed at Myron Cohen. They understood him. They knew him. He was familiar. He was like a good old comfortable chair. And Jackie Leonard could mow them down with energy. And you see, the trouble with that audience was, first of all, they were old-fashioned. But second of all, a lot of them in the orchestra knew that they'd be turning the lights up later when Ed would introduce Joe Louis or Babe Ruth's widow or somebody from the audience. Stand up there, take a bow now. Come on now. Oh, turn the light now. All right. And they knew these people dressed for that. Mm-hmm. These people had their furs and stuff and their jewelry and stuff. And so they were a little bit tight, a little bit tense. And here I am trying to do, quote unquote, a little bit avant-garde stuff, a little different. Now, I did well with the Indian Sergeant. I did well with the stuff I knew well, and I knew. But now we're getting down to, they keep having me back, and the money's good. And you don't walk away from Ed Sullivan's. It's good to have him on your resume. How many do you do? 5? Get him in there. We want him in this club, So I was a victim of my own success, and I did some Ed Sullivans I hate. I've got all 11 of them on a disc. I wouldn't look at them. I wouldn't look at them because I don't know which ones I'm going to see. I don't want to. It's too hard when you know you've come a long way. It's too hard to see yourself, getting knocked down by a fastball pitcher, You don't want to see that. You don't need to. I know who I am now. I'll look sometime maybe, but it's time consuming for one thing. On those Ed Sullivan shows, I began to realize, not just there, everywhere, all these shows, I didn't fit. And here's what I was missing. I was missing who I was. I began with a dream of being Danny Kaye, which is a very mainstream dream. It's very middle America. It's a people pleaser job. And I dreamed a path that was traditional. Comedian, disc jockey, comedian, actor, big success. A mainstream dream. Meanwhile, what I really was an outlaw and a rebel because I had lived that kind of life. I got kicked out of 3 different schools. I got kicked out of the Air Force. I got kicked out of the choir. I got kicked out of the altar boys. I got kicked out of summer camp. I got kicked out of the Boy Scouts. And I quit school at 9th grade. I had great marks. I was a smart kid, but I didn't care. They weren't teaching what I want. I didn't give a shit. It's important in life if you don't give a shit. It can help you a lot. So I didn't give a shit. And I was a pot smoker when I was 13. We broke the law. We broke into cars. We broke into offices. We broke into Columbia University. We broke into stores. We did all sorts of unlawful things. And I was that kind of person. I was one who swam against the tide of what is expected and what the establishment wants from us. But I didn't know that about myself because this dream blinded me. This dream was about America, about the path that we all follow, the middle of the road, middle class, America, mainstream, will dream. And meanwhile, I'm sitting there like this, fuck those people. Fuck that shit. Look at this stupid shit. No, I don't want to be in the bunny number. Can I get out of the bunny number, please? I don't want to put on that fucking uniform. And I didn't know this dissonance was inside me. And in the period this is happening, all through the 60s, the counterculture was forming. The free speech movement started in Berkeley. The hippies were growing into a force. And peace, love, power, flower power, pot smoking, anti-authority. See, bing, ding, 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 anti-authority. Throw over the establishment. Burn down the math building? Wow. Ding, 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 ding. So I gravitated toward that because I was that person, really. And the people I hung around with were that way. The musicians I knew in the late 50s had gone through that transition. Suddenly they looked different and their music changed. And I'm listening to people like the Buffalo Springfield. I'm listening to Bob Dylan. I'm listening to these people and I realize these artists are using their talent to project their feelings and ideas, not just please people. And I began to take some acid and some mescaline. I didn't overdo it. I had a couple of trips that weren't the best, but I had a lot of great trips. And that is a values-changing drug. Hallucinogens are a value changer. So is marijuana. Like it or not, it changes your values. It opens up windows, doors of perception, Aldous Huxley called them. And you see things differently. And I suddenly was able to see my place and to realize I was in the wrong place. You see, in 1967, the summer of love, the peak of the hippie movement, I was 30. I was entertaining people in nightclubs who were 40. And they were at war with their kids who were 20. There was a generation war. I was in the middle of it. I was 30, 20, 40. And I said, what the fuck am I doing over here? These are the people that will at least understand me and give me a chance. So it took 2 years. I didn't go to the mountain and come back different. I didn't do a Bobby Darin. I didn't do a whatever, those people who just go away and they're back new suddenly. I took 2 years to change, and it happened on television. Right. Happened on daytime television. Happened on syndicated shows like Della Reese, Virginia Graham, and Steve Allen had one of his many incarnations. He had so many great shows. This was one of his syndicated shows in Hollywood. And I went on there. Those shows had 5 shows a week. They needed people. I went on there. My beard was growing and growing, getting longer. My clothes were changing. My attitudes, the things I was allowing out of me were changing. And I talked about my changes on the panel a lot.